Something that you might have noticed wasn't talked about in Donald Trump's State of the Union was that guy, his best friend, his party buddy, his good time friend, Jeffrey Epstein, and the cover up that Donald Trump has been the head of for about a year right now. A lot of people were assuming he'd have to say something, but no, he ignored it, as he ignored the survivors who were in that chamber, as he has ignored the survivors this entire time. And it's getting a little bit harder to do that though, because what's coming out in the documents, including what has been left out of the documents that have been released so far, is looking pretty bad. And a new NPR report is very much of that sort. They're raising concern about the cover-up because they discovered that dozens of pages about specific allegations that were made against Donald Trump appear to have been removed. They allege that the DOJ withheld dozens of documents from its Epstein files release that may pertain to a woman who accused both Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein of sexually abusing her when she was a minor. You might recall this particular accusation. There are many, because this one was a girl who said she was assaulted by Donald Trump when she was just 13 years old. And evidently the FBI took these allegations so seriously that they did actually follow up on these. They did not, shamefully didn't follow up on a number. But in this case, they reportedly sent agents to interview his accuser a total of 4 different times in 2019. However, only documents regarding the first interview have been released, independent journalist Roger Sullenberger revealed this month. And so they took it so seriously, they kept going and interviewing her. But the last 3 interviews, the follow-up interviews, we don't get to know what they found out there or what the FBI agents thought about it. Now, we're gonna talk more about it. First, we have a little bit of explanation about some of the elements of the missing documents.
I want to say something about how we know the pages are missing and who might have seen them. Because based on NPR's reporting, many of these documents, and I think some of our viewers are familiar with this, they have a number at the very bottom that starts with EFTA for Epstein Files Transparency Act, and then has a number. That number has a meaning. It's basically a consecutive numbering of pages of a production so that each page has its own unique identifier. NPR basically looked then at the index, compared it to what was produced for this particular witness and her statements, and has, by comparing those page numbers, has counted 50 plus pages that they believe are missing that correspond to these 3 interview memoranda. We have not independently done that ourselves, but I trust that if we were to go through that exercise, they're probably not far off the mark, that there are 50 pages that you would expect to be produced in consecutive order that are missing from this.
Okay, that is one potential explanation, and it's concerning. But have you considered that perhaps document releases like prison surveillance videos just naturally have gaps in them at suspicious times? Oh, all of them are missing a few minutes when a person might have snuck in and killed someone. Maybe that's actually what it is. But no, sarcasm aside, yeah, it's incredibly concerning. Look, first of all, that any documents are missing, and bear in mind, at least half of them still are, but specifically the documents pertaining to interviews about claims made against the president, when we've been saying from the very beginning that the reason they took so long to do anything on this is because they were combing through to find anything about Donald Trump. It seems like they found something, and it seems like they took that pretty seriously. Sharon, what do you make of it?
Yeah, it's chilling how many people are involved in what appears to be a huge, disgusting conspiracy here. That said, I'm surprised we don't have, they're not very good at their lies and covering up, but maybe they don't have to be. Why don't we have the documents leaked? Why don't we have more stuff leaked? I mean, that is a question that I have. Why are we looking to find their lawyers and journalists now right there on MS Now talking about what they've uncovered, but there should be even more. We know nobody likes the way they were treated inside the Justice Department, anybody with, the medal or the distance where they had a career there. But why don't we know even more? That scares me. Have they destroyed stuff for good? When the next person who comes in there who has somewhat of a soul, will it be gone or lost forever? I'm really wondering this. You can't keep secrets like this. So why don't we know even more?
Yeah, 100%. And thankfully, a few documents have been released that let us see, as was in that video, that other documents haven't been released. But there's so many documents that haven't been released that might themselves implicate other things. And so that's my concern, is that we don't even know what we don't know. But in this case, we do know one thing that we don't know, which is what came out of those interviews. Because look, if you want to say anybody could submit a complaint, an accusation, it can be done baselessly or whatever. Okay, well then the FBI talks to the person, and obviously it's not true. I mean, obviously he didn't force a 13-year-old girl in the 80s to perform oral sex on him. Obviously he didn't sexually assault this 13-year-old girl. Except that if it's so obvious, why did the FBI have to talk to her again? And then again, and then again? If it was baseless and ridiculous, and this is a crazy person who can't provide any evidence that it happened, why would they have to interview her 4 times? And why don't we have access to the notes from those interviews where clearly the FBI concludes that there's no evidence of this? If it's exculpatory, why don't we have it at this point? I feel like this is not being talked about nearly enough.